Hey there, this is Adam's grandmother, and you're now tuned into the Archives with Adam podcast, where every episode dives deep into Adam's brain archives. With each guest, we uncover hidden stories, real memories, and conversations that bring you closer to the people behind the moment. Now, welcome to the Archives.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an exciting episode of the Archives with Adam. I am your host, Adam, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-host, Charlie, the owner of Charlie's Retro Reality in Clarkston, Washington. Now, today's guest may be best known as the redhead from All That. And no, we're not talking Danny Tamberelli. You know her from her breakout role on Nickelodeon's hit show, where she delivered unforgettable sketches that made a fan favorite out of her. But Lisa Foyles is best known for so much more than that. Lisa, welcome to the Archives with Adam.
Yo, dog. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited. Yeah, I know Danny, he took the title of favorite redhead on All That.
I was a
I'm like
Claudia
the
fan,
second.
so.
I'm the second best. I'm the second best redhead on All That.
There we are. So I just really want to, just really fill you in really what this show's about, Lisa. It's really about celebrating your career and everything that you've done. And that's really digging into your brain archives as well as ours. And that's really how we constructed this episode.
Nice, dude. I love it. But it's also about me hearing about this Halloween con, this October thing. Tell me more about it.
Yes,
I got you.
I'm like a big I play in a Halloween band. Like I play in a Halloween horror band, and I love all things Halloween.
If everybody's kind of curious, we were having a pre-show conversation, and it was just some really good conversation that I think everybody should know about. So I'm gonna pass it over to Charlie and let him chat and kick it off.
Go, Charlie, go.
So let me introduce myself. I'm Charlie. Hey y'all, I'm in Clarkston, Washington, and Charlie's Retro Reality. Come visit. Plug. So I just have to start off by saying, when I seen you on, All That, I was a Claudia fan. So I was that kid.
Cool kid. All the cool kids like Claudia.
I was an athlete. So it was like the alternative girl in high school that you always wanted to talk to, but you never did. Yep. And then by the time you got out and realized, like, oh, I should have said something. And yeah, so that's awesome. But yeah, to get back on topic, Halloween X, or I should say Spo X is what they call it. And what it's about is Spokane, Washington. Nathan is his name. He's been doing this, I want to say he's going on a decade. If not, I may be wrong, so don't quote me. He's been doing this for a long time. He also does the Lilac Show.
Lilac Festival or whatever.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I used to perform at the Lilac Festival. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, and I started my journey with Nathan and joining, in the festivities about 3 years ago. So it was really one of those growing things. It was like, okay, where do you want your business to go? What are you doing? So, yeah. And then my show was the Halloween show. And I made such a memorable impact that it has so much support comes out of Spokane for, my business. And I love that. Cool. But to kind of plug Nathan's show in, Halloween X 2014 is, the first weekend of October. It's a fantastic show filled with voice actors, such as yourself, and just the list goes on. Artists. There's interactive things that you can do while you're there, and then of course the vendors like me. I sell toys and games and things like that. So it just covers the retro nostalgic all the way around, right? So it is just kind of diving back where we left off because it was such a good conversation.
It was.
Back into that.
Yeah, I want to know about that. I lived in Spokane for so long, but I never got to live there when I was over 21. And I didn't, didn't like have my own car and like couldn't go like do stuff. I was just a kid. So now I'm like really interested in all the bars and the like over 21 like events and like cons, like everything Spokane has to offer now that I'm adult, when I'm not like a 9-year-old kid.
Little kid. Yeah, no, the welcome home would be awesome. And it's such a spectacular show. It's a weekend show, of course, like most of the cons. It's always downtown at the Hilton Towers.
Okay.
You remember those? So right on the riverside, beautiful. Definitely a tourist spot to just kind of take it all in and explore. But yeah, the bar scene, Spokane has done so many just community, the upbringing and the variety. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, there's so many, blip spots on the map you could really go to and be entertained or entertain. I know there's a spot on where they have nothing but retro themed stores. So
that's cool.
Oh yeah, there's a place. Look it up. It's called Time Bomb, and they put on their own show. So they got the Toy Show Classic that they do twice a year. That's coming up in November. And that's more of like your old tin toys and Hot Wheels and stuff like that. But still
that's
a great
fun.
show.
I love that stuff.
Right. So, but yeah, I will have to connect you with Nathan, and
please do. I would love that.
Yeah, and he's always. I love his energy. If you look up the Halloween show and just Lilac, his energy and what he brings to the table for everyone is support and just that love and care.
Oh, I love that.
He's one of those guys that knows every single individual person. And that is where I can say I have a rough time with that myself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, I love people like that who just bring that like relentless positivity and just are a ray of sunshine. and
it's the best kind of people. Good. Yeah.
How cool.
So
I'm so excited. I'm so glad you told me about that. Jeez.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely get you guys connected.
Yeah.
So you were right. This was a great bring together, thing that came out of nowhere. I love
totally. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know you were in Washington. That's nuts.
We both are. I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side of the mountain. I'm over here near Seattle. I'm in Renton, and myself and Charles, we just got connected last night by
literally yesterday.
Literally over a crazy situation, and it's just it all came together. And
TikTok, that's so funny. Oh my
TikTok,
gosh.
yeah. And he with his retro store, he eventually wants to do like in-person signings and stuff. And I have tons of people in my back pocket that we could always reach out to management and stuff, and hopefully eventually get that going. And he I invited him.
I made a list.
Okay.
And like I told you earlier, I was texting you. I said, I was asking the customers as they were coming in. We did like a little, clicker thing. Like, do you guys recognize? And I had your interview video, just your vlog on your YouTube. And I must say, your gaming. I dive into people. Obviously, I don't want to do anything. But I was like, wait, I've seen you on Roku TV before. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Like, my son has, I'm pretty sure this is the same gal that I've seen. And then I dove into him, like, wait, that's generations. Like, that's like, you have captured the heart and the, just like the atmosphere of like 3 different generations of people. And it's like, wow, like my son's 13. And he knew exactly. I was in the kitchen cooking dinner, like I was telling you last night. And my son comes in. He was like, you watch. Why are you watching her? And I'm just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be doing an interview with her tomorrow. And a friend of mine I just met. He's like, no way, Dad. He was like, you're really doing that? I was like,
I'm not joking. So funny.
He's like, I watch her. So my son follows you already.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's just because I'm Peter Pan and I refuse to grow up. It's so funny. It's like so I did all that, and then I was living in LA after that, and I was like still getting jobs here and there, but there was still that part of me that was just kind of, so I grew up homeschooled. So I was always just like a very private person, and I liked my alone time, and I was definitely like a loner artsy kid. Like very good in social situations. Like I can be very extroverted, like as a Nickelodeon kid, but at the end of the day, I get very worn out by too much, right? Like it's so much. And when you go from being a homeschool kid to being on like the #1 show on Nickelodeon, you can't even go to the mall anymore with your friends because you just get mobbed by kids. Like kids see you and they just like tackle you, and you like can't go to the mall. Because back in the day, there wasn't YouTube and there wasn't Netflix. Like kids had Disney Channel or Nickelodeon.
True.
Or Cartoon Network. But for live action, they had Disney or Nickelodeon. So on Saturday nights, Nickelodeon like had that locked down, right? Like every kid tuned into Nickelodeon on Saturday nights. And so like everybody was watching me, and because I didn't have another option. I mean, it was the same with me. Like I watched Kenan and Kel and the all that cast because I didn't have another option, and it was the best. It was the best. Like it was so good, and it still stands the test of time. But you know, fame was like that level of fame at that time. It was a lot to digest, and I was very thankful for it, and I loved it, and I was always so kind to like every fan that I encountered, but it was still very overwhelming. So after all that, I stayed in LA for a couple years, and then I moved back to Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, and I was born in Portland. I mean, I lived in Spokane like longer than Portland, but I was born in Portland. Like that's like, you know, I'm a Portland girl. And yeah, just my group of friends in Portland, like all I did was play video games. So just naturally I became a gamer because I was playing with them and I was watching them play games, and they were educating me on just all things Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo. And I had a childhood where I played Nintendo, and I loved gaming growing up, but it wasn't until I had this group of friends in Portland where I really got this like deep education on video games, like very hardcore gamers. And then I just kind of ended up merging the two. I ended up merging my love for being on camera and kind of playing a character, and my love for video games and my knowledge of video games. Because you'll get, you know, back at that time, you know, when like the Nintendo Wii was just coming out, and like the 360 was popping, and you know, all these games, like the jump of games from the Xbox to the Xbox 360 was like massive, right? Like the graphics was huge. There was a lot to talk about. So it was a great time to be kind of a reporter in video games. But I also knew what I was doing. So I could like I played the like sexy gamer girl and played a character because I had just gotten off all that, and I was really good at playing characters. So I like kind of hyped up the like, I'm a hot, cute gamer girl, but also like I knew my stuff. Like I knew what I was talking about. Like I was very educated in gaming. So that's kind of how I just got started in that. And then all of a sudden I found myself in a whole new genre, in a whole new world. I was in video games. I was going to video game conventions. I was constantly doing shows. I was working with channels like the Warp Zone. I was working with all these video game channels. And yeah, I just did that for years. It's like a very strange career shift, but it was so much fun. Like the best nerds are the best people in the world. They're the best people in the world.
I love your top thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good, bro. So I was, you know, one thing I was telling Charles today is that, you know, I love connecting with my guests. You know, yes, I reached out to you because you have obviously a name and a status, but one thing I explained to him is that I like having these conversations where we could talk like human beings, right? But you could share your stories because really behind your name and your status, you are a human being, you know? And so I've had, you know, Brian Christopher Hearn, who we've worked with on my show as well. And I love Brian. Me and Brian, we have a really great friendship. We've hung out quite a few times. I even had Gary L. Gray on my show, and we've hung out as well with Brian. And you've worked with Gary L. Gray, you know, on Even Stevens. So it's really cool just, you know, hearing about these stories and, you know, just really taking them all in.
Yeah. No, I miss Brian. I haven't seen him in so long. I can't wait to see him at
SplatCon.
Could be good.
It's gonna be It's gonna be huge. I mean, that's just gonna
lit.
be like, oh
I
man,
just don't understand how have they not gotten more of our cast? Like, how is Chelsea not coming? Like, what the heck's going on? Like, have they not get Christina? Like, Christina does social media, so like, what is going on? I know Jack is having a baby, so he gets a pass. Him and his wife are having a baby. He's gonna the baby's gonna be like a week old. Okay, you have a pass. You don't have to come to SplatCon. But like, where the hell's everybody at?
Tis the season. The shows. I will definitely. I'll vouch for everyone. There are so many shows across this country and even overseas that I do 15 a year, and I feel like that's maxed out for me. And I'm a vendor,
that's
so
a lot.
I have
that's
to.
That's a lot.
I'm just like, man, and some of these shows obviously switch and pick out, but man, like when you were talking about that show, and I was just like, yeah, no, I wanted to kind of go to it, but I'm just like, that's so much, like that's so much, especially, once you get to the point where you're doing 2 shows a month, I would say in my experience thus far, 2 shows a month, especially weekend to weekend, I can only imagine, and when I've talked to other, voice actors, especially and artists, it's just like the burnout. Do you get that way? Do you get that often?
Well, so well, shows, you mean like conventions?
Convention, yeah. Sorry, cons and shows.
So I only did conventions really pretty steadily when I was in gaming, and that's not even steady. That was like PAX, GDC, E3, and then PAX East. Like maybe I did 4 a year. And even doing 4 a year, it was a lot. Oh, and then Kamikaze, because I was really good friends with the woman who started Kamikaze, and I helped her turn that into Stan Lee's Comic-Con. So that's like 5. I was doing like maybe 5 a year, and like even then, like I got super sick of it. But I don't do conventions anymore. This is the only one I've done in years, so that's why I'm like really excited about it, because I just don't do it. First of all, I don't think I'm like famous enough to do it. Like, I want to meet fans who want to meet me, but like it's just like, I don't know, like it's just weird to me that like I don't think I'm not like, William Shatner to like go appear at a nerd con, that's why I think
I tell you what, when he told me,
like the cast of the Avengers, but like for me, like who'd want to come see me? I don't know.
I tell you what, I once I dove and just took the name and put it in Google and YouTubed, I was like, I'm sold. I know exactly who this person is. Like, granted, I was, obviously, and I will, like, as far as me, it's recollection, because like I said, I'm terrible with names. I told you yesterday, I am crap when it comes to that memory thing. I'm getting old is what it is, I know. But I was a kid. I never did TV until I was almost like 13 and up. Like, it just wasn't in my family. So me, I think I have the advantage of when I go to shows, cons, and things like that. I honestly don't. I that whole thing you were saying, just treat people how you treat people. And I've met, famous people just cruising by. They come up to my table and I'm just like, hey, how you doing? That my regular self. And then it rolls into this like whole nother thing of like you were saying yesterday, it's it's that it's that energy you really pass between people and that vibration. So, and once you recollect and get people into that knowing, now I would say you're definitely up there, in my opinion, if I may. In my opinion.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I think, honestly, one of the reasons that I agreed to SplatCon is because, well, first of all, they're like, your band gets to play, and that's what I'm so passionate about right now, right? Is like being on stage and like connecting with people and putting on a show. Like, we don't just get on stage and perform, like we put on a show. We're like basically we're like a variety act. Like, I'm dancing on tables, I'm like grabbing people up, like we're doing crazy stuff. Like we really put on a show, and I'm like, okay, well, if I get to take my passion and then show it to my fans, like in person, like obviously I want to be somewhere where my fans can meet me, because it's been a very long time where I've been at like a convention where I can tell my fans, like, come meet me, like come hang out with me, like I'll give you an autograph. It's been a long time since I've done that. So I'm like, okay, on one hand, I get to finally be in a place where I can sign autographs and have headshots to sign and like meet fans and talk to them about their memories of the show, because I am the same, right? Like every person who watched me on all that, I feel the same way about Keenan and Kel and Amanda and Elisa and Katrina and Leon and all those people. You know what I mean? Like, because I watched them growing up. And I just did an episode. My latest podcast episode is about Keenan Thompson and about working with him, and then years later encountering him again, and just how impactful he's been on my life and career, just like watching him every Saturday and just learning comedic techniques from him. And I honestly owe so much of my career literally to just watching Keenan and Kel, just watching the early seasons of all that. So it doesn't matter how many times I meet the original cast members, I still get starstruck, right? Like I can have a full conversation with Josh Server and we can totally just connect as people and professionals and actors, but then I'm still gonna walk away just like, oh my god, that's Josh Server, oh my god. Like it's still gonna happen just because like, oh my gosh, like I remember watching him. And so like I know that feeling well. So if my fans have that feeling about me, I want to talk to them about it, because I'm like, I know, like I get it, like I feel that way about them. Like, oh yeah, let's fangirl together, like let's embrace it. So I like being somewhere.
I got a list of
like
about 30 people today.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Let 30 people.
I definitely got like I said, we had about 50 people come into the store today, and out of those 50 people, I think it was like 51. We had 30 people exactly, which was cool. Last two people kind of bumped us up, where they were adamantly like, no, like, and they're 28 through like 33. So it was like that perfect timing.
Oh yeah,
like,
perfect.
Okay,
like,
well, yeah, like you remember that, like, and like you're saying, like the people, Keenan and them, those were the people we watched adamantly, and we seen the movies, and you look up to those people, and when you meet them later on,
totally.
It's, to have that heart pumping, like, oh my goodness, like I know you and you appreciate me. Like it's
totally.
It was fun to see it today in the store of like,
that's so cool.
I was really taken where I text you and I'm like, hey, I think this actually be like a meet and greet that I might have to do, because I haven't done that yet for the store. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would love to.
Yeah, and the kids.
We'll definitely get you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
that's
I was going to say
awesome.
that from Pullman, Moscow, and we're in a small town, so it's like to really bring that to the table, and that's what this community is about. It's like there's not much out here. Like it's a nice town surrounded by big schools, but I mean just the raw like adamant emotion that I got today from just mentioning it, and then reminding people like, yeah, this girl right here, like, you remember this? Oh my gosh, like, no way, you're gonna talk to her. And I'm like, yeah, no, I am.
Like, that makes me so happy. And I have such a love for the Pacific Northwest too. Like I went to school for a short amount of time at University of Idaho. My whole family went to U of I. Like I lived in Moscow for half a year. I lived in Coeur d'Alene for half a year. My family lives in Coeur d'Alene. My family lives in Spokane. Like I've been into every nook and cranny of Washington and Idaho and Oregon. Like that's like my home. Like I legit consider like those three states like my home. So I have such a love for for those states. That's so funny. That's so cool to hear. Yeah, I mean I remember doing autograph signings at like the Moscow Mall and what's the one in Spokane? Like not the Spokane Valley Mall, the other one, the like North something mall. I forget what it's called.
So you got the downtown,
whatever the other one.
Valley.
The other one, the other mall. Because the Spokane Valley Mall, I don't think existed. Maybe it did. I don't know. But like I remember doing autograph signings like at like malls like up in Spokane and Idaho, and it's like that's so cool. I love it. I have such a deep love for just that whole area.
See, it might be a conversation to be had getting you out here and over to Charles' shop. I mean,
heck yeah.
He told me, he was like, Man, I just need to get out of my shell and talking to people, but I think he's doing really well with talking. I mean, he's carried the show so far.
So, well, in a blend of like your music and I was showing my gal last night, and she's she has the whole aesthetic just like you, and I'm just like, no, this is like her home. You know, because that's what I would say, since being in this area and, you know, Spokane to Seattle, it's like, it's the vibe. That's what's going on nowadays. And it's just the whole, everything you got going on, all the girls that are, you know, you got your younger teenagers all the way up to like 30. I mean, the curve has changed, you know, from, you know, you had the hip hop scene in Nickelodeon for a little bit, and then it kind of flushed over. And then, you know, now it's like, you know, it's that rocker. Everyone wants that dark hair and, you know, and so, I mean, just my store alone, I think that aesthetic, the horrorcore aesthetic is just, it's gravity, and it doesn't have to be, you know, it's not frowned upon, you know, exactly anymore. It's more so encouraged to, it's one of those flattering things to be yourself, you know, and
for sure.
And I look at my store, it's like, I tell everybody, it's a celebration of being in a safe place. I mean, I even go, you know, there's political things in my window. There's all sorts of, you know, I'm from Michigan. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I am about as Ann Arbor. We'll go blue. I come from a place that's so diverse, but it was so like being in lunch, you know, and you have division, and it's just like that's not you know, with the kids I see in my son's grade, 8th grade, even around here, it's no, there's an acceptance of the sports kids. You know, back in our day, I would say, it's like flip-flop. Now you got the geeks are all pumped up and muscly and stuff, and they play sports. And then you got the sports kids that are the gamers and the you know, the grudge. You know, so it's different. It's so different, and it's like that. And when you talk like that, it's especially I remind myself all the time. It's just like, man, are we getting old? Is that the thing here? Like,
well, it's so funny that you say that. So here's my take on it. So a lot of my very, very best friends are super nerds, and I don't use that word lightly. I know that like everybody these days is like, I'm a nerd, and that's fine. You can say you're a nerd. That's fine. I'm accepting. I'm not a gatekeeper. That's all good. You can be a nerd. Like, you can be a hot girl. You can be a nerd. You can be a guy. You can be a nerd. That's all good. But I have this deep, deep love for the nerds of media when it wasn't cool. Because here's the thing. It's pretty easy to like the Avengers now because it looks so good. You can be a Marvel nerd now. You can be a DC nerd now. Yeah, because it's cool as shit. I don't know if I can curse on it. But look, it's super cool. It's cool as fuck, right? Like, it's super cool. Like, look at the CGI. Like, this is amazing. But you look back at, like, those super old Star Trek episodes, right? Like, really, really old Battlestar Galactica. You look at like those super old video games. You look at the kids painting their own Warhammer figurines. You know what I mean? Like, you look at that back when it was not cool to like that stuff. You can watch those super old episodes of Star Trek and just be like, this is cool. Like, you like this? This is like the shoddiest production I've ever seen in my life.
People are coming out of the shell and accepting that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even on our age.
There's like, you're seeing like prosthetics like coming off in this old Star Trek. Like, it wasn't easy to like that old nerdy stuff, but people who are nerdy at heart, meaning they have nerdy, I think really boils down to just having a very deep imagination, like a very vast imagination, and they can see something that's not perfectly shot, see prosthetics peeling off, but yet see past that and be like, what is the story they're trying to tell? Oh, this like deep space story, and the, you know, the conflict between this race, and then the love story and the love story. Like, they can see past the like geeky stuff, like the
what's the
obsession, like,
emotion?
really,
What's the lesson?
exactly. They can see
the
past
energy.
that. And that's way back.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like those 80s like nerds that were just getting beat up and shoved in lockers because of course the cool guys are just like, you like this, you fucking nerd? Like, but those
and I remember those times.
And trash. Yeah, those guys getting shoved in lockers and trash cans. Like, those are my favorite type of people. Because I'm like,
I wasn't into football, but I damn sure knew I was a bigger kid, and I was in, like I said, back to that lunchroom vibe. It was like, you know, there were kids that could go around. Like I felt like I was one of those kids that could go around to different tables, like in high school. You guys remember doing dual enrollment and traits and stuff like that? You had your nurses. You had your,
I can't help you.
Well, yeah. Well, and then you had those kids too. Some of those kids had to finish off their half of the year as a senior. And some of them, I remember there were kids that were 20, 21, you know, that were homeschool kids. But the biggest thing was, I remember like exactly what you're saying. It wasn't until like almost sophomore, junior year that you would see like the involvement. It was like, okay, well, the sports kids are recognizing the smart kids, the geeky kid, the true valued geeky kids, and, you know, trying to mesh that together. Because just in general, you know, to blanket it was, we knew in our years up and down within like 5 years of each other that we were going to be that the reset generation. We were going to be the, you know, everyone's welcome and no one has to feel unsafe. And, you know, I work, you know, not to get deeper into just me, right? But I have kids that come in that are, you know, 17 through 25 that are, you know, we'll say it respectfully, on the spectrum. They work, you know, they do tasks that, you know, are you know, respectable to their level of experience and building those skills. And then you have customers that come in and you can see the shyness. You can see the shell that wasn't accepted. And that's why I love that I was the sports kid that loved the video games, that now has all of this. Like I tell people all the time, I don't collect this, right? I collect rocks and I do tarot. But I want people to feel welcome. I don't want people to feel scared to reach out and go to a con. Like you're saying, like you were telling me, to be approachable. Approach others, you know, be kind, and, you know, be open to new ideas, new ventures, and all that stuff, because you never know what's going to happen. But I would say in our generation, that was pounded so, like, you know, don't cry. Like if you cry, you know, that's a girly thing. Or for girls, it was, you know, the buildup of independence, you know, thing. And so now it's like, man, how do we fuse that with the weather that's going on around us? And for everyone, you know, is welcome. And honestly, I'm not going to dive into it, but you can just look at our politics and just be like, what the, like, are y'all trying to fuck us up some more? Like, I'm pretty sure we're all traumatized already. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. So, like everything in that, you know, especially like the nerd world has come so far. I mean, it took me, I had to really prove myself in video games when I first started. Because there was a lot of gatekeeping going on. And not all gatekeeping is bad, because we are tribal, right? Humans are tribal, and we like being in clubs because we like feeling like we belong, and we like finding groups of friends that like what we like, because then we feel like we're part of something. So it's okay to feel like you're in a group, to feel a little tribal, but never to the point where you're rejecting other people because they don't belong in your tribe, right? Like, we don't want to gatekeep. We can be tribal. We don't want to gatekeep. But I did get to experience, you know, I did experience that when I first started in video games, right? Like, you'd think that I would have been accepted pretty quickly, right? Okay, so we have this girl who was on All That. Everybody loved All That. I was on it for 4 years. The show was very successful. I was a successful cast member. Like, people liked me. I had fans. I loved it. I had a great time on the show. I celebrated being on the show. And my next step was just, I loved video games so much that I just wanted to bridge the gap, take my on camera experience, merge it with video games. What could go wrong? Let's all have fun and talk about video games. What could go wrong? Oh, a lot of men did not like that a lot. Like, they did not like it. They were like, what is she doing here? Like, she's not a nerd. She's not a gamer. Like, get out. So I had to approach it with less of a, like, you guys are mean and you guys are bullies and you need to accept me, and more like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I understand how everybody's been conditioned. I get that this is right now a boys club. And I get that. And I'm not going to come in and just, take over and complain about you. I want to know how I can bridge this gap, because I still want to be me. I don't want to sacrifice who I am as a person. But here's the thing. I'm the hot girl. At the time I was a hot gamer girl who came from Nickelodeon. And you may think that I'm trying to get into your club, but I genuinely do like the same things that you like. So there's no reason to gatekeep me. And I tried to be very careful about infiltrating the boys club. You know what I mean? Like, not in a way of like, you guys need to accept me because I'm a girl and you're a boy and it's feminism, whatever. I didn't come at it like that, right? I came at it with like, we like the same things. I'm going to convince you of that. And I'm going to do it as authentically as possible, because I want your trust and I want you to believe when I'm reviewing a video game, I want you to believe that I've played it and that's genuinely how I feel. And I know I don't look like the other gamers. Again, this was many years ago. Now there's almost more female gamers than male gamers. So that's not the case anymore. But back when I started, there was like 3 of us, I swear. Like, when I first started in like video game journalism, like when I was talking about video games, there was like 3 of us and that's it. It was all guys. And it was just, I'm actually very proud of myself for how I approached the whole situation, because I didn't lose myself in the process. I didn't try to become somebody I wasn't. I just really made an effort to connect with people in that field, connect with the fans, and break down the wall between us and be like, hey, I know that I don't look like the other nerds that you're used to talking to, but I can still go just as deep into Star Wars lore as they can. So let's do this.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I won people over and I made some great friends and some great connections. And it just turned out to be this beautiful, beautiful thing. So, I mean, obviously it's a totally different landscape now. And I love that being nerdy is mainstream. I would say that, man, you poll people, I bet like 80% of people on this earth would say, yes, I'm a nerd. Like, I bet that was not the case before. Like, who are these people saying they're nerds? Like, oh my God, this is great. Like, you know about, like, you read Avengers comic books, like you read Marvel, like this is great that like people have finally gotten on board with this these amazing stories and this imagination and just what Stan Lee has created and what all of these people fought so hard for, right? Like all the practical effects that are now gone. Now we just have CGI, but like you had these people creating puppets, trying to bring you into their world. This is Yoda, come into his world. It's they had to slave in order to create these worlds that now you can do with a computer. But I mean, what a ways we've come. Like, how cool.
Oh yeah,
100%.
By the way, this is not a baby bottle. I'm looking at the thing. I'm like, this isn't a baby bottle. This is just a regular cup. I'm not drinking from a baby bottle, just for the record.
So I know
we bought boxes at the dollar store of those. Quick.
I just glanced down at my thing. I'm like, what is that?
So we've been going at this for a good amount of time right now, and I know we're getting kind of to the.
Let's get serious.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun, and I know we had some questions, and we would love to have you back on for a part 2. So whatever we had in mind that we didn't get to talk about today, if you're up to it, we would love to have you back on and finish that up. But we wanted to talk to you about how you first started out with.
I started with Even Stevens. That was my first TV job. And I thought I was going to be a Disney kid because like the lines were pretty clearly drawn in entertainment at that time. You either were a Disney kid or you were a Nickelodeon kid. And because I booked Even Stevens, I'm like, I'm a Disney kid. Like, I guess I work for the Disney Channel now. But I did 2 episodes of that.
Gotcha.
And then
You were totally a Nick kid. You were totally
I
a
was
Nick
at
kid.
heart, I was a Nick kid.
Like,
Like we were a little
100%.
grittier, right? Like we were a little scrappier as Nickelodeon kids.
Like what
the
he's talking about, like no, you were totally Malcolm. Like you were like you had. Sorry, I that's why I say I'm adamant. Like I know this character, like this person that created these characters. If I may, not to take you away,
go for
but
it. Yeah.
but no, just the idea of like how you started your career all the way up and from, and like I said, again, I dive into people, the story from going to Spokane, the homeschool person, and then being this vibrant voice, and then jumping into acting at such a young age. And everyone can see the struggles that, later in life, people have had from those careers, right? And then after that, building with other genres, like, Malcolm in the Middle was later, but it was like, tell them the story. I would say crack into the story of how you actually were him. You didn't even, and I would say, like, I've done my history, and I've actually knew that because I used to watch Malcolm in the Middle religiously.
I've never watched Malcolm in the Middle.
What? Bro, what are you put it on the TV? What are you
So that's where I got my
No. Let me tell you the genius of this show. It was one of the only family sitcoms that I think depicted a real lower middle class family, right? Like they actually depicted the struggles you go through. It wasn't that Full House, like everything's great, let's hug it out. They were like, they struggled, right? Like they really depicted what it was
Tim
like
Allen
to have a family.
Malcolm in the Middle.
Like
and
kind of
Simpsons
make
in the middle.
ends meet. Yes, it was trying to make ends meet, like kids actually fighting like real life issues. Malcolm in the Middle is so genius at that. But yeah, so I was on all that for 4 years, and it's funny because Frankie Muniz was a guest on our show. He was the first ever guest, the first ever celebrity guest on episode 1 of season 7, and so I kind of knew him from that. And then obviously Kyle was his name Dabney, I think, on Malcolm in the Middle. He was one of the nerdy kids on Malcolm, one of Malcolm's friends.
I always forget.
Yeah, so Kyle was already on the show, so he was already kind of like a seasoned vet from Malcolm in the Middle. And then years later, they were holding these auditions because they were looking for the female versions of all the Malcolm boys, all 3 of them. And it was back when, when you're living in LA, like you just run into the same girls over and over and over at every audition. Like I think Chelsea was at the audition with me. I think she got pretty far as well.
I think both of you guys have said that in your interviews.
Yeah, she was like a runner-up, man. She was like right there, and it's so funny because you don't really know what they're looking for, because the whole time auditioning, I was auditioning for Reese. I was auditioning for the female Reese.
But you looked like him as a girl. Like that's what I got from it. Like even back then, looking at Reese's, I'm like, how's that? Like they knew in the back of their mind.
Yeah, like they more than me, but like it's so crazy because like I had Reese totally memorized. I went through the whole audition process like as Reese, and it wasn't until the very, very last audition where they were pairing us up with other girls, where they were like, we're gonna have you read for Malcolm. So like go out there, you have about 30 seconds to just look over those lines, and then you're gonna come back in and read for Malcolm. And I was like, I freaked out. But thankfully I had done the scene so many times with the other girls playing Malcolm. I knew the lines, so it wasn't that hard for me to then switch to Malcolm. And I only read once for Malcolm. I had read like 50 times for Reese, and then I read once for Malcolm, and then I got Malcolm. So that was actually
prepping everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, it was an Emmy Award-winning episode of the show for editing. Like, it was one of the more popular episodes. Access Hollywood did a whole episode on it just because, how fun. Like, now there's female versions of all the characters. So it was so cool to be on such an iconic episode of that show.
Have you guys done like a reunion or anything like that? Do you still function or talk to them?
No, I haven't. I would love to talk to them again. Jane Kaczmarek was like one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. She was so sweet. She actually felt like my mom. And the crazy thing is, in that season, in those episodes, she's pregnant, but she was pregnant in real life. So they like wrote it into the show. I mean, the whole premise of the episode was that she was about to have a baby and she didn't know whether it was going to be a boy or a girl. So she was thinking, oh, maybe I want a girl. And then by the end of the episode, she said, I hope you're a boy. Like, well, actually, I think at the end, she says, I hope you're a girl. But, you know, she's picturing what's it going to be like to have a girl versus a boy. Like, that's literally the whole premise of the episode. And she's pregnant in real life while filming.
And it's so chaotic. And not just on the show. Like, I remember that. Like, I remember seeing the Taco Bell dog go in the commercial. And then you think about it when you're like 13, 14, 15. It's like, man, like now it's like, is she really stressed out? Like, was that healthy for that child in the womb?
So, I mean, she's an amazing actor. She was very calm. She was like very calm and very sweet on stage, just on set. And then she was able to turn Lois on just like that and be like, you know,
everyone's mother.
You know, it was just so. It was such a fun episode. Like I have such vivid, even though it was only one. There's only one episode. I just have such vivid memories. So on one hand, it kind of sucks that I couldn't have been a recurring character. You know what I mean? Because it was a very specific role and a very specific episode. Like they're not going to need female Malcolm in another episode. Like it was just the one. So it stinks that
we hoped
come back. Yeah, I know. Where's the part two? It stinks that I wasn't able to come back. But at the same time, like what an iconic episode to be a part of.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun time.
Really good.
I'm gonna have to go and watch that, but oh man,
yeah,
I
you are.
For some reason, I thought that was like one of your first roles, but I definitely want to talk about all that. You know, how was
the cheese real?
Yes, the cheese was real. Yes.
Was it hot?
It was not hot. It was very lukewarm.
Sorry for cutting you.
No. The cheese cannon. The cheese cannon. I remember that episode, and the sugar was real. The coffee was not real. The tarantula.
I did not realize that was like one of the. I watched one of your interviews last night, and you were saying that is one of the most iconic spaces. When I thought about it, I was like, no, I specifically remember the cheese over the sugar, but then I was like, well, I guess maybe I missed. You know, you think back, you're like, maybe I missed those episodes, and then you see the reruns, and you're like. Maybe I just never seen it. Like in my mind, I was like, I never seen the sugar until I seen the clip, and I was just like, oh, she did do sugar. Why would you do that to a child? First of all, like, where are the boundaries here in the 90s?
No, we loved it. Honestly, like Jack and I just had a phone conversation a couple months ago, and we were reminiscing about how much we loved the messy stuff. Like we wanted challenges. Like sometimes we would even challenge the writers. Yeah, we would challenge the writers and be like, make it harder, make it more. Like we were just like, we were daredevils. We loved the mess. We loved the being in a harness, like all the crazy stuff. Like Jack and I loved it, and we welcomed it. And I have such like fond memories of all of it. But like, I mean, sugar and coffee was the best. Like I was a kid. And you get to get messy, like you get to use like dump sugar all over yourself, and like jump, you know. Well, it was flat Coca-Cola for the first season, and then it was flavored or colored water for the other season. But like you get to just go get messy and run around and like have fun and make a whole sea of kids laugh. Like that is the dream. Like we got to do it in front of a live audience. So like you do anything, and you have kids erupting in laughter. Oh my gosh, it was the best.
Oh my goodness! Like
it changed that feeling forever. It was the perfect marriage of theater and television because you had the instant reaction of the audience of theater, but you had the ability to try things several times like television. So it's perfect.
I got a nostalgic, weird question that I always wanted to ask as a kid, right? So you watch like Jerry Springer, Oprah, and all those other shows. Do they really have the signs where they were telling people to clap and stuff like that? It's a weird one. I know it's on.
Well, yes and no, right?
Okay.
So they had there are like neon signs, not neon, but like signs that like light up. For for a lot of live tapings that say either like quiet or like applaud. Okay. So it's not like the signs, but they do, you know, because they are filming a TV show and they do need people to cooperate. So for example, like I've been to some live tapings of some other sitcoms, and it's super exciting when you first get there. right? When you first get there and you're sitting there and they're warming up the crowd and you're super excited and they do the scene and you laugh. They do the scene again. You laugh again. They do the scene for the 8th time. You know,
you're like, bro,
it's not funny anymore. But when you're in the audience, you're part of the show. So you have to be told to laugh, right? They're like, you know, usually you have somebody, there's a man named Mark Sweet, and he has been warming up audiences for TV shows since the beginning of time. Like, he gets paid big bucks to warm up the audiences of Big Bang Theory and Will and Grace and like 2.5 Men, like all of these shows. That's literally what he does, is he gets the audience excited. He does stand up. He tells them jokes. He tells them when to be quiet. He tells them when to laugh. So there is a guy like helping the audience. But here's the thing. Kids are not going to do 8 takes. They're not going to. As an adult, if I'm sitting there and I'm told to laugh, of course I'm going to go, ha, 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 ha. Oh, Jennifer Aniston, that was so funny. Ha, ha, ha. Like, I'm going to laugh.
Bro, you're dead.
Even though I'm just like, okay, how long is this taping going to last? It was funny the first 2 times, but it's not anymore. I want to go get dinner. I want to leave. Kids are not going to do that. Kids are only going to laugh for about 3 takes. That's it. So we knew we had to nail it in about 3 takes, or those kids are going to get restless. And I love that. I love there was a time limit. Like, you had to nail it, had to do it, had to get it done, get the kids out. Like, loved it. I miss it. I really miss it.
You met so many, like, just nostalgic and just memorable people. I have one weird question, another one, if I may. I'm sorry. I know he's like on a show, but I love weird questions. Britney Spears, how was that?
The most starstruck I've ever been in my life.
Oh my gosh!
I've never been more starstruck than that.
Be next to her.
Like, yeah, it was insane. She was like the biggest star on the planet at that
next
time.
To Jackson.
The fact that like she's larger than life famous.
Yeah. No, I had super
first of all, oh my gosh! So there's more people on set for her first guest star. She guest starred twice. It was it made more sense when she guest starred once her sister was on, right? Because then it's like it's a family thing. But like before Jamie joined the show, Britney guest starred, and there were so many people on set, like so many like security guards, and just so already tensions are like high because we're like, okay, we usually don't have 300 people on set. Like, what?
Hide the Coca-Cola, bro. Hide the Coke. She's on Pepsi.
Dude, for real. So the first scene I did with her was Slumber Party, and I was supposed to drag her into the set by her wrist, right? Like, because I was like, I got her. They were like, where's Britney?
There she is.
Okay. So it was a Slumber Party sketch, and I was supposed to drag Britney in by her wrist, and then we did a funny scene, and then she's confused at why she's there or whatever. But like, the security guard like came and like had a talk with me, right? Like, I'm like a 14-year-old kid, and they were like, hey, don't touch Britney until they say action. Don't grab her wrist very hard. Like,
you are a child.
Very gentle. I'm like, I'm 14. Like, what?
Like, if we could go back and forth in time. Like,
oh, I know. But the truth of the matter is, like, once, because Britney and I had to wait in a very small room together, just her and I, because that's the way the set was built. We had to be behind a door, and then I was supposed to open the door, bring her in by her wrist, and then continue the scene. So we were standing in like a tiny little area, and like, even though her security guards were like very intimidating, and they gave me the talk about like, you better not grab Britney's wrist too hard, like, Britney didn't care. Like, she was super fun and super sweet and just very normal, because she didn't care. You know what I mean? Like, we were just chatting, just like friends, like in the little thing.
That's
like,
good.
she didn't care. She was even just like, hey, like, take my wrist now. Like, she was like, hey, grab it now. Let's get ready. You know, like, she didn't care. She was just normal, super normal.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So she was so sweet. But let me tell you, like, she has an aura. Like, that's when you're next level famous. Like, that is.
Did she give you any like cues to, like, besides just the energy she gave you? I'm curious if, like, did you ever, when you met those types of people, did you take the tidbits? Did you really, have you ever thought about that? Like, did you ever take any like insight from how even their movements with the way they talked and things like that? Did you take any lessons from the experiences
I think
that you could really reminisce on?
Yes. I think the stars who were just extra kind. Pretty much everybody we worked with on all that, guest star, musical star, were all very nice to us, but it was the select few that just went above and beyond and went the extra mile to be super sweet to us when they didn't have to be. Like Usher was so kind, was so sweet and so nice, and like called us by name, you know what I mean? Shake our hands and be like, Lisa, thank you so much for working with, you know, it was like, he was so kind. Tony Hawk was so kind. You know, it's just like there's
Tony Hawk's like G, bro. Like you need to get him up. No, I'm sorry.
For real. And like Bare Naked Ladies, for example, usually everybody would play 1 or 2 songs, and then in sound check they would just do it once or twice and then be done. And Bare Naked Ladies came in for sound check and they played like a full concert for just like me and my dad, basically. Like it was just like the crew. Like I was just standing there in like basically it was like empty, and they're just like doing their full set, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like there's just some of these stars that just they really cared about being there, and they cared about learning our names and being very sweet. And that's what I would always remember. Be like, I don't care how big a star I get or whoever gets, like be kind to who you're working with, you know, because like you might not want to take the time to learn the lighting guy's name because he doesn't matter in the scene. Oh, actually, he's making you look good. He's he's controlling the lights that illuminate you to look good on camera. And he has a wife and kids that he's trying to feed at home, and he needs to get out on time, and he's got a call sheet, and he's, you know what I mean? He's probably hungry. He wants to eat dinner. He wants to get out of here. Respect those people. Respect the crew and everybody who's coming together to make you look good, because without them, you're nothing. So you know, I just always try to remember that.
Go ahead. The lesson I learned from this guy yesterday, just to be loving and respectful.
So we are actually about time, because I gotta hop on with Ryan. I was actually just messaging him. He said to tell you, hey.
I love him so much.
I would love to get you back on for a part 2 if you have time. Maybe hopefully before SplatCon or even after, and we'll have to chat some more.
Yes, I can't wait. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for hanging out and having me on. I always love reminiscing about those old times. I have such fond memories. So thank you guys so much.
Of course. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too.
Good night. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Archives with Adam podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's deep dive into this week's guest stories and insights. And don't forget to stay updated on upcoming episodes only at the Archives with Adam podcast on Facebook and the Archives with Adam on Instagram. Catch you in the next episode.